na tumataas pa ang mga nangahawa, lagpas na sa 100,000, marami rin ang nawalan ng trabaho at patuloy na nawawalan ng trabaho. So meron tayong bayanihan 2 na ating ipapasa naman sa Senado, pero gusto natin din siyempre malaman kung ano ba talaga ang tatahakin ng administrasyon na ito pagdating sa pagtulong sa paglago ng kabuhayan at trabaho para sa ating mga kababayan, lalo-lalo na yung mga umuuwi din sa probinsya, ano ang dadatnan nila doon. Pero siyempre, bilang nababasa sa balita, na naririnig sa balita, gusto ko rin malaman ang opinyon ng Pangulo pagdating sa mga ibang kontrobersiya, halimbawa yung seryosong aligasyon tungkol dun sa opinyon ng Pangulo, siya pagdating sa pag-reimburse o pagbibigay ng bayad sa mga hospital na mga tumatangkilik o yung mga gumagamit ng universal health care.
Senator Po, this is Rico Hizon. Welcome to our special presentation of the Sona of President Duterte. I just want to zero in, Senator, on the economic stimulus initiatives. I spoke with Congressman Joey Salceda, and he mentioned that some of these stimulus acts are already in third and final reading at the lower house, and now it is the turn of the Senate to look into when are we likely to see a reconciliation of the two bills from the House and the Senate, so our people, the small and medium-sized enterprises, will be able to benefit immediately as they continue to suffer during these challenging times?
It's crucial for the government to be businesses. And in fact, in the new CREATE bill, it's given to certain business in Quezon zones will remain at least for a period of 5 to 9 years. So these are part of the stimulus packages being proposed by the government, and I think that it will garner much support in the Senate as well. Another also is when it comes to banks, with regards to MSMEs or micro, small, medium enterprises, there is capitalization increase for the DVP as well as the Land Bank of the Philippines for them to be able to loan for these small businesses that are affected, especially during this pandemic. As you know, our unemployment rate is hovering around 18%, so that's about less than 8 million people, but that will continually increase if jobs are not available, meaning companies are shutting down. So I think that we really have to prioritize these bills as well as the Land Bank and the DVP purchasing non-performing loans so that other banks will free up their capital and be able to lend, especially rural banks, to the small businesses in the provinces.
So, Senator, when are we likely to see this being finalized by the Senate?
I'm sorry?
When are we likely to see this being finalized by the Senate and both houses will be able to reconcile their differences on these various stimulus acts and signed into law so the Filipino people will be able to benefit?
Well, when it comes to the Bayanihan 2, that is expected to pass by tomorrow on third reading, meaning after that it will just be a bicameral meeting, and I think that both houses will agree immediately. And part of the Bayanihan 2 will already include certain incentives for the DVP as well as the Land Bank. So you should have that, as well as allowing an increased budget for mass testing. But for the others, we still have to hear, we have to continue the committee hearings for the other bills that are proposed by Congress that's now transmitted to the Senate. I think that when it comes to the CREATE bill, we're now in the period of interpellations. So seeing that most companies will really need some sort of assistance from the government, and lowering the corporate income taxes by 5% less will be a big help. I don't see any reason why this should stall in the Senate.
Senator Grace Poe, thank you so much for your time. We are going to be with you watching the President, and we hope to speak to you again later, ma'am, para sa inyong reaction on what the President will be saying. Senator Grace, maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Thanks, Pinky and Rico.
Thank you. Every year during the President's State of the Nation address, protesters gather to call for changes and to voice their demands. But it's a slightly different case this year in the time of the coronavirus pandemic. Let's go to our David Santos in Quezon City, inside the University of the Philippines, Diliman, the site of protest action. So, David, tapos na, umuulan na. Tell us what happened earlier, much earlier.
Well, tama ka, Pinky. No? It is now raining here in UP Diliman, in this part of Quezon City. A wise move on the part of the organizers to end today's Contra Sona rally earlier and not coincide with the President's speech this afternoon. Now, organizers had anticipated this to happen since it has been raining the past few days around this time in the afternoon in this area. So as planned and as promised, the organizers ended today's 2-hour rally dubbed as So Nagkaisa by noontime. Now, as you can see behind me, the makeshift stage used for this morning's rally now dismantled. No, those who participated the rally, with organizers saying reaching to about 10,000, peacefully dispersed at exactly 12 noon. Now, demonstrators had assembled and in different parts of Quezon City earlier today before making their way here in UP. No, protesters marched down in the stretch of the University Avenue, with some groups calling for the ouster of President Duterte, supposedly for miserably failing to address the country's most pressing issues. Now, these include, we often hear this, the administration's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the country's sagging economy, widespread joblessness, and its rather vague foreign policies, particularly on the issue of the West Philippine Sea. Now, a number of government critics spoke in person in today's rally. In this morning's rally, others delivered their messages taped and shown earlier today, all of them taking turns in lambasting and criticizing President Duterte and his government. They say that instead of focusing on how the country can better manage the pandemic, the government and its allies spent much of its time and resources on closing down media giant ABS-CBN, passing what they say a needed anti-terror law, and now efforts to amend the Constitution. A veteran journalist and former ABS-CBN employee says Drilon spoke about threats to press freedom and reiterated calls to bring back her network on air. Artist and activist May Paner provided some comic relief, spoofing presidential spokesperson Harry Roque and his controversial trip to a sea park in Subic early this month. Initially, this rally was supposed to be held along Commonwealth Avenue, as had been the tradition the past. Sona's organizers had to scrap that plan late last week after the Interior Department issued a memo reiterating the ban on mass gatherings, so rally permits had to be withdrawn. Now, UP, as we all know, is more open to these kind of protest actions, being a bastion of activism and the center of dissent against the national government. So no permits were required here. The organizers had assured that they will strictly, as we saw today, they strictly observed health protocols that were being implemented by this government amid this pandemic, and that the assembly was held and done peacefully. Back to you.
All right, David Santos reporting there. Thank you, David.
And let's return now to our guests to break down the issues on the minds of the people.
Still joining us in this CNN Philippines special presentation of President Duterte's fifth State of the Nation address is political analyst Dindo Manhit and former Health Secretary Manuel Dairit. Dindo Manhit, to you first. You saw David Santos's report just a while ago. People still coming out into the streets, although in smaller number, of course. And practicing social distancing, of course, physical distancing. But they keep saying that this is too important an opportunity to let pass, and they think that they still need to go out into the streets, even if health authorities, government authorities have warned against mass gatherings. What do you think of this kind of a mindset?
I think the mindset of these organized groups was actually driven by certain events that should not have happened during this pandemic. The passage of the anti-terror bill, the failure of ABS-CBN to get their franchise outside of the committee, even the Rappler cases. So I think people are looking at repression. People are looking at anti-democratic tendencies, even at the height of the pandemic. So I think that's what they meant when they said that this is something that they cannot let it pass. They would like to use this as an opportunity also to speak to the general public in their own little way, to be covered, to emphasize that, look, something is wrong when you look at the democratic side of this pandemic. There are attempts to cripple values that has been the shared value of the Filipino people since the downfall of the dictatorship in 1986.
All right. Well, this question now for former Health Secretary Dairit. Secretary Dairit, how do we balance that? No, people feel the need to express themselves and to go out into the streets to join these protests. No, but at the same time, you have government authorities, health authorities, doctors warning against mass gatherings. You know, saying na kahit na mag-practice kayo ng social distancing, magsuot kayo ng mask, at maghugas kayo ng kamay, you are still putting yourselves at risk. No, from a purely health perspective, how are we supposed to look at joining these protests?
Well, Pia, that's a very hard question to answer. Well, people want to protest, then they should go out and protest. They just have to protect themselves. The fact that protests are being done outside, there's less chance that there will be transmission, because transmission is usually much, much more effective indoors. I might say, to put things in context, Pia, that we're still really in a very early stage of the pandemic. And at this point, I would just want to express appreciation for everyone that's been working in the front line, even the government workers, the DOH, who are being criticized severely for this. But we're at an early stage. And this is going to be a long, long, long battle. This virus will exist amongst us for very many months to come. And we have to keep holding on, fighting it, because we cannot let it just go and transmit in an uncontrolled fashion. People say that, it's so bad. I can tell you that really it could be far, far worse. It could be far, far worse. And had we not been doing what we're doing, it could be far, far worse. So I guess let's be happy with what we've accomplished. This is going to be a long haul. I guess the sadness that I have is that as people will get infected, there will be casualties and people will die. But this is the nature of this epidemic, and this is the nature of this virus. We cannot take it for granted. It will be with us for a long time, and hopefully a successful vaccine comes early and we can implement the vaccine so people can get protected.
Dr. Dairit, this is Rico Hizon. Welcome to the show. You mentioned earlier, from hindsight, that we could have done better in fighting this unseen enemy of COVID-19. In your view, has President Duterte relied too heavily on ex-military generals to lead the fight against this pandemic, or should he have gotten more support from health experts and lead this fight together with the ex-military generals in fighting this COVID-19?
Rico, You know, I've been involved in the back room. Okay, I'm part of the Task Force T3, which is a private sector collaboration with public sector. So I've seen, you know, that the generals are there, but I know that there are also health experts working with them. So really, it's a broad front. And I think the generals were put there because very early on, particularly in late March to April, we could see that the Department of Health was faltering. And that's why they changed the command structure. And they put this command structure under the disaster control people, which is controlled by the military. And that's how it happened. But at the moment, there are civilians and there are doctors working with these generals. And I can tell you that because of this working relationship, I think it's much better. The operations are much better, but we're just up against a very, very formidable opponent. Any opening, any lapses, the virus is going to spread and it's going to punish you, as we can see.
Well, sometimes there's this talk about, well, for the most part, how we eased restrictions. But when you talk to the economic managers of the president, they said it's really balancing lives and livelihood. I want to ask Attorney Edwin Lacerda this. Edwin, this 4 czars that we have, just moving forward, this was implemented, I would say, about 2 to 3 weeks ago. Secretary Vince Dizon, testing czar. You have Mayor Benji Magalong, the contact tracing czar. You have Secretary Villares, the quarantine isolation czar. And for health, it's Yusek Vega. Knowing the structure of government and you being with government under President Aquino, do you think this is the best way forward? Are you confident that finally we have czars for testing, tracing, treating? All right. I don't think we have Secretary Edwin Lacerda on the line. Maybe I can ask that to Secretary Dairit as well. Secretary, I hope you heard my question. This is Pinky.
Yes. Yes, I heard it, Pinky.
What do you think of that?
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea that they have the testing, the trace, the isolation, and the treatment SARS. But having appointed the SARS, that's only the first step. The SARS have to be working with the line agencies as well as with the local governments and with the private sector. They're just a point of convergence. In and of themselves, by themselves, they cannot do very much. They're there really as a way of getting resources and personnel to converge towards a focus. And because of that, I think that is a good move.
Right. And I guess, Secretary, they are the point persons. I want to move to Professor Alvin Ang. A number of questions I also have for you, sir. You said we need to coexist with the virus. In fact, a lot of people actually say when you go out, you're supposed to pretend that you actually have the virus in order to protect yourself and the people in front of you. Rico had asked about MSMEs, and from the last report, about 40% of them have actually closed shop. Okay, so we don't have Professor Ang, also maybe a little later on. Let's go to Dindo. I'm sure Dindo Manhit is still there. Dindo, when you talk about the MSMEs, no, of course, this is the driver of the economy. There's about 40% of them that have actually closed down. In a political scenario like this, sinasabi naman tinutulungan yung mga MSMEs, and eventually in Bayanihan too, that can happen as well. But it seems that there are a number of them, 40% of them, have actually lost hope.
That's the reality of the long lockdown that we've had. It has affected more than the big business groups, but really the micro, small, and even medium enterprises. And the reality also that some of this MSME is driven by the service economy, which is also suffering from lockdown, the GCQs, terminologies that we have used to really keep our economy from moving. My fear with that is the joblessness that it has created. We've seen the latest report as of April of a jump to 17% unemployment. Remember, that is April. That was just a few weeks after the lockdown. Imagine where we are at this time. And job affect really the stomach of the Filipino people. You don't have jobs, you don't have livelihood. Imagine how you will deal with healthcare. Imagine how will you deal now with education of your children, even in the so-called need for more digital technology, especially for those enrolled in the public school system. So a lot of challenges to an ordinary Filipino family that emanates really from the failure of or the loss of business of some of this MSME. And that's where I fear really, because at the core of any national concern of Filipinos through the years is actually economic. That's why inflation has always been challenging for any government. But now it's actual jobs being lost, jobs that provide livelihood, that addresses challenges of poverty and inequality in our country. So those are things that we just hope government really can focus on, that as we deal with this public health crisis, there are economic consequences to it. And the economic consequences will really hit more the poor, not only the owners of business, but the employees themselves who will lose their livelihood.
All right, thanks for that, Dindo. We need to take a very short break. You're watching a CNN Philippines special presentation.
And we are less than 10 minutes away till 4 p.m. That's when we expect the President to deliver his 5th State of the Nation address.
Of course, we're not sure if it's going to be at the Batasan or in Malacanang, where he's going to go live from. We'll be back after this short break. Be right back.
Sila ang nagtatanong.
More strong and enduring.
Simula pa lang ito.
Because you have complied with all the requirements of the law.
DMI MX3 has once again been recognized globally for quality and excellence. The World Quality Leadership Award in Madrid, Spain, the Glory Trophy in the Biz Americas USA, and the World Biz Excellence Award in Malaysia.
The company envisions to be a global leader in natural food supplement. We believe in excellence for God's glory.
Maraming salamat po mula sa MX3. Tunay, natural at orihinal.
Listo at ganado ang baby ko sa vet-approved Nutri-Chunks with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat, with essential nutrients to help them grow healthy and happy. Listo, ganado sa Nutri-Chunks.
Your hair may look great, but if it feels rough, use Dove Intense Repair with keratin repair actives that target and repair damage inside out. So hair looks beautiful and feels touchably soft and damage-free. Dove, now 20% more, only 5 pesos.
Here we go! Another day, another adventure. We're going to talk about how to look and feel your best.
Ano nga ba mga bagay na dapat i-share at dapat hindi?
We're taking you to new destinations and eco-friendly tourist spots. Let's get moving!
#proud moment.
Ganda nun.
Always rise up, and for sure, you will always get there.
What we put in our bodies is actually what keeps us going.
I am doing this because this is my passion.
Welcome back to this CNN Philippines special presentation of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte's fifth State of the Nation address. You're seeing live pictures from the Batasan Pambansa. Two helicopters have landed on the helipad, and that is President Duterte getting off one of those choppers. It is 2 minutes before the hour of 4 in the afternoon, the appointed time at which the President is expected to deliver his State of the Nation address. That is in the 1987 Constitution. He is going to be met by the Chief of Staff, General June Santos, who will then escort him through an honor guard. And the President will then be met by the sergeants at arms of both the Senate and the House of Representatives. The President being escorted up the driveway by Senator Bongo on his left and on your right, as you can see on the screens. And they are going to be going, well, the President is going to be going through the honor guard. This is what we were talking about, that there is still going to be tradition and protocol, things that need to be done. There is going to be that honor guard that the President, and we are expecting that there will be an honor guard any moment now as the President enters the halls of the Batasan Pambansa. Now, what you're also seeing, of course, is an inside shot of the plenary hall. In pre-pandemic times, this plenary hall was filled to the brim, not just in the audience or the gallery, but also on the floor as well. As you can see, desks of the senators and the congressmen were placed far apart from each other. And we are expecting that anytime soon the President is going to be making his entrance into the plenary hall of the Batasan Pambansa. It is now 4 o'clock in the afternoon. As we said, this is when the President is expected to deliver his State of the Nation address. Of course, like we said, Sona, of course, goes by plenty of tradition and protocol. So there is a lot that we will not be seeing, but there is also plenty that we will be seeing as well. President making his entrance from the side entrance straight to the rostrum, and Senate President Tito Soto and House Speaker Alan Cayetano will be
Makapangyarihang Allah.
Makapangyarihang Ama.
Makapangyarihang Ama.
Makapangyarihang Ama,
May gawa ng langit at lupa. Bagamat kayo ang kataas-taas ang hari, kayo naman ang aming Diyos, na lubusang makabagin, at ang inyong kapaitan ay walang mali.
Buong pagpapakumbaba kaming lumalapit at humihingi ng inyong kapatawaran sa aming mga pagkakasala sa isa't isa, sa aming pagwawalang bahala, sa kalikasan at sa iba pa ninyong mga nilikha.
Hilumin ninyo kami, ang aming mga karagatan at mga kagubatan, marapatin na muling maging daliwan ng inyong mga biyaya.
sapagkat kayo ay patuloy na namamayani sa lahat, maging sa salot na aming kinatatakutan.
Tulungan ninyo kami na mahanap ang lunas sa laganap ng pagdurusa. Mangusap sa bawat puso namin, muling ipadama sa amin ang inyong pag-aadya. Patatagin ninyo ang mga kumakalinga sa mga may sakit, ang mga patuloy na nangangailangan sa amin, gantipalaan at pagpalain ang mga tumutulong sa nangangailangan, nang sila ay patuloy na tumatalima sa inyong pahiwatig. Itinatalaga namin sa inyong patnubay ang aming Pangulo.
Mga namumuno sa pamahalaan at pribadong sektor.
Pagbuklo rin kami sa pagharap sa mga hamong darating.
Nang may pag-asa at katatagan ng pananampalataya.
Sa dulot ninyong laya at tagumpay.
Sapagkat kayo ang aming dakila at kaunahang Panginoon, at ang inyong kaharian ay walang hanggan.
ipinagkatiwala sa inyo ang aming bayan, sa inyong pagmamahal, hinihiling ang aming kaligtasan. Siya nawa.
Please remain standing for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem.
At bundok, sa simoy at sa langit may dilagang tula at awit sa pagdaya minamahal. Ang kisap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagniningning. Ang bituin at araw niyang kalan pag may di magdidilim. Lupa na ang sa piling mo. Ang ligaya ng pagmamahal, ang
Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of Congress, the President of the Republic of the Philippines, Rodrigo Roa Duterte.
Kindly